Fintan Nation, it is day 16 of the challenge. If you have not booked your second scan yet, please go to www.calendly.com/trainonmain and book your second scan that's coming up next weekend, okay? Saturday, Sunday, Monday are open for scans. There are enough spots for everybody. All right, I'm going to get right back into why you need to have a sufficient amount of calories for you to well, not just lose, I mean, you don't need it to lose body fat, but to really keep body fat off. And so I'm going to try to wrap it up today and still keep it as simple as possible. Of course, we talked about the offsets or the homeostatic measures the body takes to try to kill or bring that energy gap that you've created, right? By going low calories, you create an energy gap, right? There's a gap between what you're burning, all the stuff that's burning through the day versus the amount of energy that's coming in. There's a gap between those two, okay? And there has to be a gap to lose some body fat, but we don't want too much of a gap, right? So we talked about why, we talked about how the body goes about, down regulating certain mechanisms in the body to conserve energy, okay? So what you can see here is we lose some momentum, we lose some of the things that go towards fat loss. When somebody comes into me, or that goes towards, more specifically, that goes towards being inefficient, right? We want to be inefficient with energy, right? When it comes to losing fat. So, when somebody comes into me and they want to lose fat, excuse me, and I see that they're eating like so much junk, it's like perfect. It's great because we have all of this food to work with. We have all of these calories to work with. So we have a lot of, arsenal at our disposal to work with because we can chip away at all that energy, that energy intake. So what we don't want to do is get in the position where we down-regulate everything. Okay, now I am jumping a bit ahead here, but let's just say for argument's sake, we do the low calorie diet. Well, I don't even have to say for argument's sake. This is something that happens more often than not. The energy intake tends to be too low for people when they go on a diet, and so again, we see that down regulation, and that low amount of calories is not sustainable. That's the problem. I mean, if you can go low calories and then you don't really care about muscle mass, you don't really care about bone density, you don't really care about being strong, you don't really care about any of that, you just want to get your weight down, then I guess you could go low calories and but you have to stay there, okay? You don't want to be doing things to go up, and you don't care about the way you look or anything like that, okay? You just want to get the mass off. Yes, then don't eat. But that, I don't know anybody who really wants that, okay? Coming back to these homeostatic measures, these things that help to, or these things that bridge that energy gap, that's what we want to avoid. And the way we avoid that obviously is by not creating too much of an energy gap, okay? Now, the process for losing weight is longer. It takes a longer amount of time, but we don't lose the momentum. We don't lose as much, not nearly as much, of the inefficiency that the body carries with it to lose weight. Does that make sense? So we don't want to spend all our money right away, right? We want to be smart with that money. We want to invest some of it as time goes on, and then we want to spend a little bit of it. And then we're always in a good spot, okay? To draw an analogy. All right, so what happens if we go too low with the calories? Okay, well, we already mentioned it. We see downregulation and all these things in the body. The body becomes more energy efficient, and so what? Okay, so who cares? All right, we lose some muscle mass, we lose some bone density, but let's go through all that. Let's lose the body fat, let's lose the muscle, and then we'll just build it back. So it doesn't really matter. Well, the problem is that when people do these low calorie diets and they do lose weight, eventually we see ghrelin goes through the roof. That's your hunger hormone. Leptin goes down. That's the hormone that makes you feel full. We also see that the fat cells do become much more insulin sensitive as well, which basically sets the body. The body is set, it's primed for fat regain. And the worst thing you can do at that point is to throw in a bunch more calories, like turn up your calories a bunch, right? Because you're like, well, I lost all this weight, now I can just go back to the way I was eating before. Well, clearly you can't, right? Because then you're just back to being in now a calorie surplus, right? A big calorie surplus. But here's the worst position that you're in now. You probably already know why you're in a worse position, right? You're in a worse position because your BMR, all the stuff that went towards burning energy is now burning less energy. Now you have to work harder to get your energy output high to where it was before. Okay, so you've kind of shot yourself in the foot. You can't eat as much as you could before. Okay, and all your metabolic processes, or a lot of them at least, are down regulated. So again, if you want to eat very little and you want to do that for the rest of your life, and you know you can do that, okay, go ahead. But we see it time and time again. When generally people go on these low calorie diets, they tend to get fatter over time. So they diet, and then they get off the diet, and then they end up fatter, and then they go on the diet, they lose a bunch of weight, then they go back even fatter. And as time goes on, we just see the weight going like this with these periods of weight loss. But overall, the weight, it keeps climbing. And this is probably most likely the reason why. This constant downregulation of these metabolic processes by going too low with your calories. So we want to create a little deficit, and then work with that. And then make the body as energy inefficient, okay, by keeping the calories relatively high or moderately high, but still in a deficit, and by doing things like weight training, right? The weight training is going to make us more energy inefficient, right? Cardio is not going to do that, right? But weight training will. So we throw in something in there as well to keep the body from being as energy inefficient as possible. Okay, so I hope this is not boring you. I'm going to stop there for today. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it in tomorrow's video, but it's been 3 days now that we've talked about this. And so I hope you can at least begin to appreciate why it is that, it's not in your interest to go super low calories. Not long term, right? Certainly not long term. Okay, or really even short term. Okay, all right, let's get to one question. It's 8 minutes. Okay, I want to just get to more questions here because I've got lots of more questions from you guys. Great questions, by the way, to answer. This person just they wrote me and they said, I need some more meal ideas that are macro friendly, especially dinners that are higher in carb and lower in fat. So I'm assuming you want stuff that's higher in carbs. Well, look at any of the carb sources like rice. Okay, maybe these aren't meal ideas, but you can start to think about some things that you could do with rice, right? Or any of the following: pasta, potato, yam. I don't think oatmeal is going to be really a dinner for you, but you never know. All your starches, right? And then your vegetables and your fruits. These are all primarily almost 100%, calorically speaking, the energy in them is almost 100% carbohydrate. Okay, all of your starches. So again, your breads, your pastas, your tubers, right? Your potatoes, your yams, oatmeal, rice, bulgur, maybe, I don't know if you guys eat that at all. Quinoa, this type of things. And of course, vegetables and fruits and vegetables, right? These are all, primarily speaking, almost 100% carbohydrates. So if you're having a hard time meeting your carbohydrate demand, and your carbohydrates are going to go down, by the way, to some degree, because we are going to lower the calories somewhat. Think about incorporating those foods. Okay, so I realize it's not necessarily meal ideas, but again, just look at those carbohydrate strong foods, right, in your manual. All right, message of the day. Ooh, I'm already 10 minutes, man. Terrible. Terrible, terrible. Okay. Message of the day. Oh, it's an easy one. Of course, it's consistency, 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 right? This whole thing is about being consistent with the right things, of course, but the name of the game is consistency. All right? I know what a lot of you do in your regular life. I know a lot of you follow days where you don't eat very much, and then I know you have days where you spike up super high. I know that's what happens because I've seen so many journals in the past. And so you've got these lower days and you've got these incredibly high days, and you don't really even notice it because you're eating things like fast food some days and some days you're not, or convenience foods or whatever. The idea here is, and one of the pillars, not one of the pillars, but one of the main themes of this challenge is to be as consistent as you can day in, day out, or consistent throughout the weeks and months, right? Well, it's only 10 weeks, I guess, but consistent with your workouts and reasonable, right? Again, asking you to do a reasonable amount. And then, with your diet, a reasonable amount of calories. And, somebody said they had written and they wrote something to the effect of like, I just can't believe I'm working, or they didn't say I can't believe, they said, but I'm working out so little and I'm eating so much. And, but this is, to me, this is all, this is much more reasonable. Your calories are slightly higher than your BMR, right? Again, that's not unreasonable. And you're working out 4.5 hours per week. Not unreasonable, right? And you can make some good progress. So why does it have to be so much harder, right? Why make it harder on yourself? We remember, if we want something to be consistent, it has to be reasonable, right? It's got to be reasonable. If it's unreasonable, it will not be consistent. You won't be able to sustain it, okay? That's all I'm going to say. Positive energy, positive vibes. Believe in yourself, and for the love of God, give some gratitude because we are among the luckiest people on this earth. Believe me, we are. I'll talk to you guys all very soon. See ya.